Hey everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a quick recap every week of what's going on in space, and today we'll be talking about the second week of November 2019. Our first story has Ron Meyerson front and center. As a space person, Ron had a very interesting job being the CEO of Blue Origin. He was running the company for Jeff Bezos. And a lot of people, I'm sure, were surprised that he left Blue Origin. And Mr. Meyerson is now starting up his own new company, Delaloon. He has 23 years of experience in the space industry, and his focus is he wants to develop space and harness the resources of the moon. So certainly his ambitions are closely aligned with Mr. Bezos, but he'll be doing his own thing with Delaloon, and we wish him all the best. NASA has come up with a really neat idea, and this is an invention that may at least partially solve the lunar dust problem. If you're not familiar with this, the dust of the moon is very, very sharp, very hazardous to machinery and to people and spacesuits and so on and so forth. So it's toxic among other things, and it hurts equipment. So the idea here is that the dust sticks to things, which magnifies the problem. So it'd be better if the dust was not attracted to things and just sort of like fell back to the surface. So NASA's come up with this treatment for paint, and they come up with a paint that basically mitigates electrical charges. So opposites attract in the electricity world. So they, by reducing these charges, they reduce that attraction. So hopefully spacesuits won't get so dirty and will last longer. So this could be a really big deal. SpaceX is getting ready for their launch of the Starlink system. This is the second launch that they'll be doing. 60 more satellites. They're going to live stream the launch of the satellites. So stay tuned to check that out. And the next day's headlines were that, yes, the launch succeeded. So they were able to get the 60 satellites of Starlink, the second installment, up. But in many respects, there were other exciting things besides the launch of the satellites in terms of reusability. The rocket, the Falcon 9 rocket that was used, it was the fourth flight of the rocket, and it was the first time that a rocket has ever flown that many times by anyone. And not only did it take off and fly for the fourth time, but it landed for the fourth time. So perhaps there will be a fifth, sixth, seventh time of use in the future. So a nice step forward in reusability with the rocket itself. But it also featured the very first reuse of the fairings. Fairings is a space term for the nose cone of the rocket. And these need to be manufactured to very careful tolerances. There's electronics built in. They're quite expensive, costing millions of dollars. And until now, they've always been thrown away. So SpaceX, again, is pioneering reuse, this time with the fairings. So moving forward, to whatever extent they can do this on an ongoing basis, they're going to save several $1 million every flight by reusing fairings. The WFIRST telescope passed its preliminary design review. And this didn't get a whole lot of coverage in the media. But the WFIRST, it's a 9,000-pound satellite. It's getting ready to be launched in 2025, so we still have a few years before the launch. And it stands for Wide Field Infrared Survey Telescope. So this is part of the exoplanet hunting process. So WFIRST will, 5-6 years from now, start adding to our knowledge of exoplanets in our galactic neighborhood. The Senate did some interesting stuff with their NASA authorization bill. And this is the Senate Commerce Committee, is the committee that we're talking about. And probably the biggest thing about the bill is it says that we should extend the life of the space station. Instead of ending operations or scaling them way back in 2024, They're now talking about full operations through 2030, which not only is extra years of operation, but it gives the contractors involved and the contractors that are thinking about getting involved the confidence that the thing is not going to be going away in 5 years or 4 years. So this should enable ongoing operations and new companies to get involved with the space station support. It also, in the bill, talks about several things, but some of the more significant ones, in my view, were the Space Grant Program is getting some improvements. And also, space nuclear power is addressed in the bill. So congratulations to the Senate Committee for doing some good stuff. And we hope that everything will continue to proceed apace. Our last piece is kind of an eye-opener a little bit in terms of the Commercial Crew Program. NASA released a report that compares the pricing for the commercial crew operations of Boeing flights versus SpaceX flights. And the short version is Boeing flights are going to be much, much more expensive than SpaceX flights. So 60% more money for a seat from Boeing. So to put that in perspective, SpaceX will be charging roughly $55 million a person to take people up to the space station, whereas Boeing will charge $90 a person. So quite a big delta, and both crafts are sort of nominally for 4 passengers. So a SpaceX mission would cost about $220 million, and a Boeing mission would cost about $360 million. So the delta there is $140 million more for every Boeing launch. So this is something that everybody's going to have to consider, because even though there's a desire to be cost effective and to not waste any money, but also it's critical that we have redundant access to the space station. So even if Boeing does end up costing so much more than SpaceX, we should still incorporate enough Boeing flights into the manifest that Boeing can offer the service, so that if SpaceX has a problem, there's somebody to fall back on. That's it for our coverage, covering the second week of November 2019. Hope you enjoyed our show, and we'll see you in a week or so covering the third week of November. Take care.